Hi, it's Pete Cohen and welcome to another My 365 podcast. Today's show is brought to you by my best-selling book, Shut the Duck Up. And you can get your hands on this book absolutely free. Just head over to shuttheduckup.co.uk/free book and see what this book is and how it can help you. And you can do that today. So, for now, take care and enjoy the show. My 365 podcasts with me, Pete Cohen. Hi, it's Pete Cohen here. Welcome to the podcast. And today, the podcast is you becoming a time warrior. I want to show you how you can use your time more effectively. Now, I've been coaching people for a long time, and many people come to me because they want help in what a lot of people call time management. I'm not a big fan of time management. I think what we have to do is look at things from a slightly different perspective, because look, if time management really worked, then I think there'd be a lot less people around the world that would be having issues with time. So my goal in this podcast is to give you some tools and some strategies to help you use time more effectively. Look, the greatest thing that you own is your time. I used to say the greatest thing you own is your space. You know, the space that you surround yourself with, the space in which you work, the space inside you to create new ideas. I don't know whether you've ever been on the London Underground. For those of you that have maybe live in London or travelled there, you can often go into a tube and a London Underground, we call it the tube. In America, they call it subway. But sometimes in the rush hour when everyone is going to work, you can be so squashed up that your space is really limited. And I don't know about you if you've been in that situation, but for me, the thought in my head is, I can't wait to get out of here. I need some space. So whether you think of time or space, sounds very science fiction. What we need to do is look at things differently, because that is when people really change. In life, people change when their perspective changes. Our goal is to help millions of people all over the world create the life they want, to create a life of meaning, to create a life of significance, to create a life where people feel happy. You see, if we don't change our relationship with time, then time tends to work against us. But really, it's not time working against us, it's us working against ourselves. So first off, I want to tell you about an animal that lives in the bottom of the ocean. It's called a hagfish. Have you ever heard of a hagfish? I hadn't heard of one until someone recently was telling me about one. Someone who's really interested in what goes on in the water. I'm very interested in what goes on in the mind, and this is someone who's very interested in what goes on in the ocean. The ocean is so big, it's so vast. There's a lot of stuff going on there that affects the way we live our life, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the ocean that a lot of us just don't really know that is actually happening. And it's exactly the same with us. When he told me about the hagfish, I thought, wow, I think I've got a hagfish inside me. See, a hagfish is this long eel-shaped animal that lives in the bottom of the ocean that basically feasts itself on dead animals, and it will go into the orifices of animals and eat the animal from the inside out in many cases. And that's what we're often doing to ourselves. We destroy our lives in many cases by what we're doing to ourselves inside, which radically affects our time. Now, we've all heard of the past and the present and the future. And one of the most challenging things for us if we want to be time warriors is to be very present. Now, I'm going to put my hand up here and give a massive confession to all of you about my relationship with time. So look, we can be in one of three places. We can be in the past, we can be in the present, we can be in the future. So where are you right now? Do I have your undivided full attention, or are you thinking about something else? Are you doing something else? Because if you're doing something else, then I don't have your full attention. And we have this brain in our body. It's a 2 million year old brain that has evolved a bit, but it hasn't evolved as much as some of the devices that you see with this massive television here. If I showed you a television from 40 years ago compared to a television now, you think, wow, these things are completely different. The technology has evolved, but in many cases we haven't evolved as much. Why am I telling you this? Because we are not designed to do multiple things at any one time. We have a brain that is very, very good at doing one thing at a time. Just like computers, they are still very good at doing one thing at a time. If you give a computer too many things to do, this processing is going on in the background, which stops the computer functioning as well as it can. Now, that's the kind of the practical of what you could be doing, but the fascinating thing is about your relationship with time. So I like to divide this up into two ways of looking into the past, two ways of being in the present, and two ways of thinking about the future. And there's a positive and a negative for both. So when you think about your past, do you think about it in a positive way or in a negative way? Have you ever heard people say, oh, you're just living in the past? Well, I think we all do at certain times, but when we reflect on our past, we have a choice, right? Because some bad things might have happened to you in your life as they might have happened to someone else. But some people have used that experience as a positive way, and some people have used it to not move on and still kind of be living in the past. And I know this can be quite a challenging conversation for some people, but from my experience of working with so many people, it's fascinating to see how people have used their past as either fuel to create an amazing life or fuel to destroy the life that they have. So when you think about your past, just understand you have a choice about how you think about it. To move on and change the way you think about it, that's one of the things that we love to do with My365 and My365 Elite, helping people go through a process over 365 days of becoming more present, of becoming more aware of time and being in the present moment. Perhaps that's why it's called the present, because it's the greatest present you can give yourself. And talking about the present, how do we use the present moment? Again, the positive and the negative. Some people, the positive part of the present is for them to recognize how important it is to be in the moment, to look for opportunities to be happy, joyful, to be enthusiastic, to look for opportunities to engage, to really listen. And some people, when they're in the present, they think they don't really have any control, and their life this is the negative side of it, that they think their life is all about circumstances that are outside of their control, that they're almost fated to the life that they have. And again, this is a choice. Some of you maybe do both. Some of you are very positive in the present or negative in the present. And then there's the future. For so many people, the future is, they have two ways of thinking about it. Again, thinking really in a positive way, like, I am excited about my future. I'm hopeful for my future. I'm going to create a better life than I have today. And I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave a mark. And there are other people who are driven by the future in a way that they think, once again, things are outside of their control and they're worried about the future. But ultimately, I'm sure you realize it's all about a choice. Now, my confession is I've spent a lot of my life being driven away from the past. I didn't like where I came from, and I wanted to prove to the world that I was good enough. So I was driven to move away from that and driven to show where I am in the future, what I can do. And I can quite honestly tell you, having done that for a long time, it's not given me as much joy as learning how to be in the moment. And one of the best ways to learn how to be in the moment is to practice mindfulness, to practice using your brain to be right where you are in the moment, to become better at managing the emotions that come up that we all face. It's not about being positive. It's more about recognizing that sometimes there are other things that are in the way and letting things come up and letting things go as you become more of a person that is where you want to be. And then when we think about where you want to be, for me now, personally, when I think of the future, I'm excited to create the future. I want to leave a mark. I want to leave a legacy. What about you? Your life really, really does matter. One of the greatest films I ever saw was all of the Lord of the Rings films. And there is a line in the film where Gandalf is talking to Frodo, who's the main character in the film, about the time that we have left. And it's not so much a question of how much time we have left. I think it's more a question of what we do with that time. And we have a world today that is so distracted. Right now, it's maybe challenging for me to keep your attention because your mind is wandering off. And if we don't learn how to tame our mind, we're going to be challenged. I believe we're challenged enough as it is. But I hope in what I've just said to you here has made you think, well, how do I actually relate to time? And please don't think of this as right or wrong or good or bad. It just is what it is. It's a relationship you have with time. So of course, time management and making lists, these things are obviously really important. But if we don't actually look at our relationship to time as to where we are within it and what is moving us forwards and what is driving us forwards, then I really believe you've got an opportunity to change. Just looking at my notes up here, and I think that what I'd like all of you to visualize is a sword, okay? This is my kind of tool I'd like to give you. You've all got an imagination, right? That's the biggest gift we've been given in the world, apart from this body and apart from time, is the gift to create, the gift of using our imagination. So step into the workshop inside your mind and imagine you've just built this amazing sword, this Excalibur. And I want you to become more aware of when you are not where you want to be. You see, the biggest excuse that people give is, I don't have time. I wrote another one down here. I'm not where I want to be. So think about those two things, even write them down. I'm not where I want to be and I don't have time. That's one of the biggest excuses people come up with. But I believe people do have time. It's just becoming more aware when you've got that Excalibur, as when you're in a place inside your mind. Imagine if you were in a place you didn't want to go, you didn't want to be, just physically. Would you go, I'm going to stay here? No, probably you go, I'm going to leave here because this is not where I want to be. That's what we have to start doing with our mind. When you're in a place of worrying or doubt or frustration or sadness, imagine you could take a sword to that and say, no, I don't want to be here, and do something to immediately change your state. And it's the same with in the past, when you become aware. And this is the real key. People will say, what's the biggest and most important tool for transforming your life? I'd say, well, there is a tool, but it's not a tool, and that's awareness. To become aware with a big smile on your face, and for you to be the master of your own destiny, to pull out your sword, to pull out Excalibur and take ownership. This will be a trial and error, and you'll get better at it the more you practice. But put your sword somewhere in your mind and take it out, and maybe even swashbuckle it around so people could actually see you with a pretend sword in your hand. Or why not actually get a real sword? No, that's not probably the best idea I've ever come up with. But just take more ownership, become more aware of this amazing thing that you have, which is your time, and what you're doing with it. So what would be amazing, and I encourage all of you to do this, is to share this podcast, because the more we get this information out there, the more we have an opportunity to give people a new perspective, that they can do something different, that they can take control of their life and build the life they want. Look, a great life doesn't happen by chance. It happens by design. And much of the work that we need to do to create this life revolves around changing our perspective, rituals, having a desire to do it, and doing it in a manual way. That's the thing, guys. It's a manual job. It's something that we kind of have to do every single day. And it's the greatest job, and it's the greatest project you'll probably ever take on in your life. So thanks for watching. Please make a comment on the podcast, share it. Let's get this information out there. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for the My 365 podcast. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and if you want more free inspiration to optimize your life so you can achieve your goals in all the different areas of your life, then visit my365.me. That's mi365.me, and sign up to 365 days of free coaching with me, Pete Cohen. Thanks for listening, and have an awesome day.